In this powerful story, single dad Jake is desperate to help his daughter Lily, who's been silently suffering from bullying at school. What starts as a father's determination to protect his child turns into something much bigger, leading to shocking discoveries, a community-wide transformation, and a ripple of kindness that changes lives. But how far will Jake go to help Lily, and what unexpected impact will their journey have on others? Before we begin, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss how this emotional journey unfolds. Subscribe. Jake Matthews stretched out in his kitchen, his hands gripping the counter as he exhaled deeply. Mornings were always a little hectic, rushing through breakfast, making sure his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was ready for school and mentally preparing for his day as a firefighter. But lately there had been a shift in his usual routine, a nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right with Lily. The kitchen was bathed in early morning light, and the smell of fresh pancakes filled the air. Jake had always loved this time of day. The world was still quiet, with just the hum of his thoughts and the distant sounds of traffic waking up. His daughter would soon come down the hall, her small feet padding across the wooden floor. Lily used to race into the kitchen, her blonde curls bouncing and her laughter filling the room. She would excitedly tell him about her dreams or ask about the plans for the day. But recently, her mornings had grown more subdued. She seemed distant, quieter than usual. The liveliness that once defined her seemed to be fading. The sound of soft footsteps echoed from the hallway. Jake turned, a forced smile on his face as Lily entered the room, clutching her favorite stuffed bunny Bun tightly against her chest. The bunny, its fur now worn from years of love, had been with Lily since she was a baby. It was her comfort, her constant companion through every scraped knee, every lonely night, and every day of school. "Morning, Lily," Jake said, trying to sound as upbeat as possible. "I made your favorite pancakes. How does that sound?" Lily didn't respond right away. She gave a half-hearted shrug and climbed into her chair, barely glancing at the plate of heart-shaped pancakes Jake had carefully prepared. She pushed them around with her fork, eyes cast down at the table, avoiding his gaze. Jake's brow furrowed in concern. He poured himself a cup of coffee, sitting down across from her. He studied her face, trying to find a hint of what was bothering her. Normally, he could read Lily like a book, but now she seemed like a closed chapter locked away in her own thoughts. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" he asked softly. Lily nodded but didn't say a word. She took a small bite of her pancake, barely tasting it before setting her fork down. Jake's heart sank. This wasn't like her at all. Lily had always been a bright, bubbly girl, full of curiosity and energy. Now it was as if a shadow had settled over her. "How's school going?" Jake tried again, leaning forward slightly. He kept his tone light, not wanting to pry too much. He didn't want to push her away, but he needed to understand what was happening. Lily shrugged again. "It's fine," she mumbled, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake sighed inwardly. Something was definitely wrong. Lily had only just started first grade a few weeks ago, and at first she'd been excited, eager to make new friends and learn new things. But as the days passed, that excitement had faded. She came home quieter, more withdrawn. She barely mentioned her day at school anymore, and whenever he asked, she gave him the same vague response. "It's fine." "Are you making friends?" Jake asked gently, hoping to get her to open up. Lily shook her head. "Not really." Jake felt a pang of worry deep in his chest. Lily had always been a little shy, but she had never struggled to make friends before. He hated the thought of her sitting alone at school, feeling isolated and left out. He wanted to reach across the table to pull her into a hug and tell her everything would be okay, but he didn't want to overwhelm her. Instead, he reached out, and gently squeezed her hand. "You know you can talk to me, right? About anything. If something's bothering you, I'm here." Lily looked up at him for the first time that morning, her big brown eyes filled with an emotion Jake couldn't quite place. Fear, sadness, he wasn't sure. She opened her mouth as if she was about to say something, but then she closed it again and looked back down at her plate. Jake's heart broke a little in that moment. He could feel the distance between them growing, and he didn't know how to bridge the gap. He wished Emma, his late wife, was still here. She had always been better at handling these kinds of situations. She had a way of getting through to Lily that Jake couldn't seem to replicate. But Emma had been gone for 2 years now, and Jake was left to navigate parenthood on his own. He had done his best to keep things together for Lily, to be both her father and her mother, but sometimes it felt like he was failing. And now, with Lily withdrawing even further, he didn't know what to do. The sound of the school bus approaching snapped Jake out of his thoughts. He glanced at the clock, realizing it was almost time for Lily to leave. "Let's get your backpack," he said, standing up. Lily slid off her chair and grabbed her backpack from the hallway. As Jake helped her adjust the straps, he noticed how small she seemed. Her shoulders slumped under the weight of the bag. "Have a good day at school, sweetheart," he said, bending down to kiss the top of her head. "I love you." Lily nodded but didn't say anything. She gave him a small wave as she walked out the door, her steps slow and hesitant. Jake watched her climb onto the bus, his heart heavy with worry. As the bus drove away, Jake stood by the window staring at the empty street. The house felt eerily quiet without Lily's presence. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong, but he didn't know how to fix it. "I need to figure this out," Jake muttered to himself, running a hand through his hair. "I need to help her." But how? That was the question that plagued him as he went about his day, the unease gnawing at him like an itch he couldn't scratch. Over the next few days, Jake watched Lily closely, hoping to find some clue that would explain her change in behavior, but every day was the same. She came home from school quiet and withdrawn, barely speaking unless he asked her a direct question. She spent most of her time in her room, holding Bun Bun and staring out the window. Jake felt helpless. He wanted to help her, but every time he tried to talk to her, she shut down. It was like there was a wall between them, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break through. One afternoon, after picking her up from school, Jake decided to try again. They were walking home, the autumn air crisp and cool around them. The trees lining the street were bursting with color, bright reds, oranges, and yellows, but Lily seemed oblivious to the beauty around her. "How was school today?" Jake asked, keeping his tone light and casual. "Okay," Lily mumbled, her eyes fixed on the ground. Jake's stomach twisted with worry. This "okay" response had become her standard answer, and it wasn't good enough anymore. He needed to know what was really going on. "Did you have fun with your friends?" he asked, glancing down at her. Lily shrugged. "I guess." "Did you play with anyone at recess?" Lily's small shoulders hunched up and she shook her head. "I didn't feel like it." Jake stopped walking, turning to face her. "Lily, I know something's bothering you. I can see it. Please talk to me." Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide and filled with tears. She was trying so hard to hold back. "I don't want to talk about it," she whispered. Jake's heart ached at the sight of her struggling to keep her emotions in check. He knelt down in front of her, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. "Sweetheart, you don't have to go through this alone. Whatever it is, I'll help you. But I can't help if I don't know what's wrong." Lily sniffled, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Some kids, they're mean to me," she said, her voice barely audible. Jake felt a surge of anger rise up in him. The thought of anyone being mean to his daughter made his blood boil. "What do you mean, mean?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. They say I look funny," Lily admitted, her lower lip trembling, "and they don't let me play with them." Jake's heart clenched. He hated the thought of Lily feeling like she didn't belong, like she wasn't good enough. "What do they say?" he asked gently, his voice tight with barely contained emotion. Lily hesitated, then looked down at the ground again. "They say my hair's messy and that I'm too quiet, and they laugh at me." Jake clenched his fists at his sides, his anger simmering just below the surface. He wanted to march into that school and give those kids a piece of his mind, but he knew that wouldn't solve anything. Instead, he took a deep breath, trying to focus on comforting Lily. "Lily, listen to me," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "You are perfect just the way you are. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not good enough. Those kids, they don't know what they're talking about." Lily sniffled again, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "But they're so mean, Daddy. I don't know why they don't like me." Jake pulled her into a tight hug, holding her close. "It doesn't matter what they think, sweetheart. What matters is that you know how special you are. You're kind and smart and beautiful, and if they can't see that, it's their loss." Lily buried her face in his chest, her small body trembling with quiet sobs. Jake stroked her hair, his heart breaking for her. He wished he could take away her pain, but all he could do was be there for her. After a few minutes, Lily pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Thanks, Daddy," she whispered. Jake smiled at her, though the worry still gnawed at him. "Anytime, sweetie, anytime." As they continued their walk home, Jake's mind raced. He needed to do something, anything, to make sure this didn't continue. He couldn't stand the thought of Lily going through this every day, feeling like she didn't belong, but how could he help her when she was at school and he was at work? That night, Jake sat at the kitchen table staring at his laptop screen. He had been researching ways to help children who were being bullied, but nothing he found seemed like the right solution. He knew talking to the school was an option, but he wasn't sure how much good it would do. He didn't want to risk making things worse for Lily. As he scrolled through various parenting forums, an idea began to form in his mind, an idea that made him feel both uneasy and desperate at the same time. He had never considered doing something like this before, but what if it could give him the answers he needed? Jake opened a new tab and began searching for recording devices. It wasn't something he had ever imagined he would buy, but the thought of being able to hear what was really happening to Lily at school gave him a sense of control he hadn't felt in weeks. He found a small, discreet device that could easily be hidden in a pocket or backpack. It was no bigger than a button, and it would allow him to record everything that happened during the day. Jake hesitated for a moment, his finger hovering over the Buy Now button. Was this the right thing to do? Would Lily feel betrayed if she found out? But then he thought about the sadness in her eyes, the way she had described the other kids being mean to her. He needed to know the full story. He needed to protect her, and this was the only way he could think of doing it. With a deep breath, Jake clicked the button. The device would arrive in a few days. As he waited for the confirmation email, Jake's mind raced with possibilities. What if he discovered something terrible? What if it was worse than he imagined? But what if it was just harmless teasing, something that he was blowing out of proportion? The uncertainty gnawed at him, but the decision was made. He would listen to the recording, and then he would decide what to do next. He just hoped he was doing the right thing. The days dragged by as Jake waited for the recording device to arrive. Every morning he watched Lily leave for school, her small figure disappearing behind the bus doors, and his heart twisted with worry. He wanted so badly to help her, but he didn't know how. Not yet. When the package finally arrived, Jake felt a strange mixture of relief and guilt. He opened it carefully, pulling out the tiny device and holding it in his hand. It was so small, so simple, but it held the potential to uncover what was really happening to his daughter. That evening, as Jake braided Lily's hair for school the next day, he carefully slipped the recording device into the small pocket of her backpack. His hands shook slightly as he did it, the weight of what he was doing pressing down on him. He wasn't sure if this was crossing a line, but his need to protect Lily outweighed his doubts. "Ready for tomorrow?" Jake asked, trying to sound casual as he zipped up her backpack. Lily nodded, clutching Bun tightly. "I guess." Jake gave her a kiss on the forehead, his heart aching with the uncertainty of it all. "Have a good day at school, sweetheart. I love you." Lily smiled weakly, giving him a small wave before heading off to bed. Jake sat at the kitchen table long after Lily had gone to sleep, staring at the backpack sitting by the door. His stomach churned with nerves. Tomorrow, he would have the answers he was looking for, but what if there were more than he could handle? The next day passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. Jake went through the motions of his day at work, but his mind was elsewhere, focused on what the recording might reveal. He could hardly wait for Lily to come home, so he could finally listen. When he picked her up from school, Lily seemed quieter than usual, her small hand limp in his. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as they drove home. Was something wrong? Had bullying gotten worse? "Did you have a good day?" Jake asked as they pulled into the driveway. Lily shrugged, her eyes fixed on the window. "It was fine." Jake swallowed his frustration, not wanting to push her too hard. He needed to listen to the recording before he did anything else. Once Lily was settled in front of the TV, Jake excused himself to his office where the recording device waited. His hands shook as he plugged it into his laptop, his heart pounding in his ears. The audio feed crackled to life, and Jake closed his eyes, listening intently. At first, it was just the usual sounds of a classroom: children chattering, chairs scraping against the floor, and the teacher's voice giving instructions. But then, the tone changed. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he heard the voices, sharp, mocking voices that made his blood run cold. "Lily, why do you always look so weird? Your hair is messy. You look like a baby." Jake's stomach twisted into knots as he listened to the cruel taunts. He could hear Lily's small voice trying to defend herself, but it was shaky, filled with fear. "Please stop," she whispered. But the teasing didn't stop. It only got worse. Jake's fists clenched at his sides as he listened to the relentless bullying. The children mocked her appearance, her quietness, and her beloved stuffed bunny. The sound of their laughter echoed through the speakers, followed by the unmistakable sound of Lily's quiet sobs. By the time the recording ended, Jake's heart was pounding in his chest, a mixture of anger, sadness, and guilt swirling inside him. He had heard enough. His daughter was being tormented, and no one was stopping it. He slammed the laptop shut, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. He couldn't just sit back and let this continue. He had to protect Lily, no matter what. The next morning, Jake was at school before the first bell rang. His jaw was set in determination as he marched into the front office, demanding to speak with Principal Daniels. "I need to talk to you about what's happening to my daughter," Jake said, his voice tight with barely contained rage. Principal Daniels, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a calm demeanor, raised an eyebrow. "Of course, Mr. Matthews. Please have a seat." Jake sat down, his hands clenched into fists in his lap. "My daughter Lily is being bullied. I have proof." Principal Daniels frowned, leaning forward. "Bullying is something we take very seriously here at our school, Mr. Matthews. Could you tell me more about what's been happening?" Jake took a deep breath, trying to keep his voice steady as he described the torment Lily had been enduring, the cruel words, the exclusion, the relentless teasing. His voice cracked as he spoke, the emotion of the past few days finally catching up with him. Principal Daniels listened carefully. His expression grew more serious with each word. "I'm very sorry to hear that this has been happening to Lily," Principal Daniels said once Jake had finished. "We will certainly investigate this matter and take appropriate action. Bullying is not tolerated at our school." Jake shook his head, his frustration growing. "It's been going on for weeks. How could no one have noticed? And why should I believe anything will change now?" Principal Daniels sighed, his tone calm but firm. "Mr. Matthews, I understand your concern, but these things take time. We will increase supervision and make sure the children involved are spoken to. But I ask for your patience as we work through this." Patience. That was the last thing Jake wanted to hear. His daughter was suffering, and he wasn't sure he could trust the school to protect her. But he knew that escalating the situation too quickly might only make things worse for Lily. "I'll be watching closely," Jake said, standing up, "and I expect to see results." Principal Daniels nodded. "You have my word, Mr. Matthews." But as Jake walked out of the office, the anger still simmered in his chest. He wasn't sure if he trusted the principal's promise, and until he saw real change, he wouldn't rest. That evening, Jake sat on the edge of Lily's bed watching as she hugged Bun Bun close to her chest. She was already in her pajamas, her small body curled up under the covers. Jake's heart ached as he looked at her so small and vulnerable. "Lily," he said softly, reaching out to stroke her hair. "I talked to your principal today. We're going to make sure things get better at school, okay?" Lily looked up at him, her big brown eyes filled with uncertainty. "Will the mean kid stop?" Jake swallowed the lump in his throat. He wanted to promise her that everything would be okay, but he wasn't sure if he could. "Yes, sweetheart, they'll stop. I'll make sure of it." Lily nodded, but she didn't look convinced. She clutched Bun Bun tighter, her eyes filled with a sadness that Jake couldn't bear to see. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. "I love you, Lily. No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "I love you too, Daddy." Jake turned off the light and left her room, closing the door softly behind him. As he walked down the hallway, the weight of the situation pressed down on him like a heavy blanket. He couldn't shake the image of Lily's tearful eyes, the sound of her sobs echoing in his mind. He had never felt so helpless before. In his job, he was used to facing danger head-on, to rushing into burning buildings and saving lives, but this was different. He couldn't protect Lily from everything, and that realization tore at him in a way he hadn't expected. As he sat in the quiet of the living room, Jake made a silent promise to himself and to Lily. He would do whatever it took to make sure she felt safe and happy again. He would fight for her, no matter what. But for now, all he could do was wait and hope that things would get better. Jake paced back and forth in his living room, the events of the last few days swirling in his mind. After the confrontation with Principal Daniels, the anger that had been simmering inside him had only grown. He had left the meeting feeling dismissed, as if his concerns were being brushed aside with polite words but no real action. He couldn't just wait around for the school to handle things. He had to find a way to make things right for Lily. As he sat down on the couch, Jake pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. He needed to talk to someone, to share what was happening, but he wasn't sure who would understand. Most of his friends either didn't have kids or hadn't dealt with bullying before. But as he swiped through the names, one caught his eye. Heather. Heather, another parent from Lily's school, had a son in Lily's grade named Ben. Jake had spoken to her a few times during school drop-offs and pickups. She had always seemed kind and approachable, and Jake remembered how she had mentioned once that Ben was having a tough time adjusting to first grade. Maybe she would understand what Lily was going through. With a deep breath, Jake tapped her name and sent a quick message. "Jake, Hey Heather, it's Jake, Lily's dad. I hope you don't mind me reaching out, but I've been dealing with something at school and I was wondering if you might have a few minutes to talk. He hit send and immediately felt a pang of uncertainty. What if she thought he was overstepping? What if she didn't respond at all? But before he could second-guess himself any further, his phone buzzed with a reply. Heather. Of course, Jake. I've actually been wanting to talk to someone about some things going on with Ben. Want to meet for coffee tomorrow morning? Jake let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Maybe this was exactly what he needed, someone who understood and could offer advice or support. Jake, that sounds great. I'll see you tomorrow. The next morning, Jake arrived at the local coffee shop feeling a mix of nerves and relief. He wasn't used to opening up to people about personal matters, but this was about Lily, and he would do anything to help her. He spotted Heather at a small table near the window, waving him over with a warm smile. Hey, Jake. Heather greeted him as he sat down. I'm glad you reached out. It sounds like we both have some things to get off our chests. Jake nodded, grateful for her understanding. Yeah, it's been tough lately. Lily's been really withdrawn, and I found out that some kids at school have been bullying her. It's been going on for weeks, and she didn't tell me. I feel like I should have known. Heather's expression softened with empathy. I'm so sorry to hear that. Ben's been dealing with something similar. He's always been shy, but recently he's become even quieter. He tells me that some kids don't let him play at recess, and they tease him about how he talks. Jake's heart sank. That's awful. I went to the principal, but I don't feel like they're taking it seriously enough. They said they'll look into it, but I don't know if that's enough. Heather nodded in agreement. I feel the same way. I've spoken to Ben's teacher, but nothing seems to change. It's like they think kids will just grow out of it, but in the meantime, it's really hurting them. Jake sighed, feeling a surge of relief that he wasn't alone in this. I just don't know what to do. I want to help Lily, but I feel like my hands are tied. Heather leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. Maybe we can work together. If it's happening to both Lily and Ben, it's probably happening to other kids too. What if we got some of the other parents involved? We could meet with the school as a group. Maybe they'd take us more seriously. Jake felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. That's a good idea. I'd be willing to try anything at this point. Heather smiled, a determined glint in her eyes. Me too. Our kids deserve better. As they sipped their coffee and discussed the next steps, Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel so alone. He had an ally in this fight, and together, they would do everything they could to protect their children. The following week passed slowly, with Jake and Heather working to rally other parents in support of their cause. They spent hours on the phone, speaking with other parents from Lily and Ben's classes, sharing their concerns and experiences. To their surprise, many of the parents had similar stories to share, stories of exclusion, teasing, and bullying that had gone unnoticed or unaddressed by the school. It became clear to Jake that the problem was much bigger than he had realized. It wasn't just Lily and Ben, it was an issue affecting multiple children, and the school had either turned a blind eye or failed to recognize the signs. As Jake drove home from work one evening, his mind was preoccupied with thoughts of the upcoming parent meeting. Heather had managed to arrange a meeting with Principal Daniels and several of the teachers to discuss the concerns that had been raised by the parents. It was a step in the right direction, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't enough. When he arrived home, Jake was greeted by an unusually quiet Lily sitting on the living room floor, drawing in her sketchbook. He smiled, though the unease in his chest didn't fade. "Hey, sweetheart," Jake said, kneeling down beside her. "What are you drawing?" Lily looked up briefly, her expression blank. "Just pictures." Jake's smile faltered. Normally, Lily loved to talk about her drawings, explaining every detail and telling him stories about the characters she created. But today, she seemed distant, her usual enthusiasm absent. "Do you want to tell me about it?" Jake asked, hoping to engage her. Lily shook her head, her eyes focused on the paper. "No." Jake's heart sank. He had hoped that after their talk, things would start to improve, but Lily seemed to be retreating even further. He had done everything he could think of. He'd spoken to the principal, rallied other parents, and tried to be there for her emotionally, but nothing seemed to make a difference. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Jake sat alone in the living room, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He stared at the darkened TV screen, his thoughts racing. Was he doing enough? Was he making the right decisions? His phone buzzed, pulling him out of his thoughts. It was a text from Heather. "Heather, I've been thinking about the meeting tomorrow. I don't know if just talking to the principal is going to change anything. We might need to push harder." Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. He had been thinking the same thing. "Jake, I agree. I don't want to just talk in circles. We need them to take action." Heather's reply came quickly. "Heather, I'll talk to a few more parents tonight and see if we can get more support. If enough of us speak up, they can't ignore us." Jake appreciated her determination. Heather had become a key ally in this fight, and her drive gave him hope that they might actually make a difference. The next morning, Jake woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The parent meeting was scheduled for the afternoon, and he was determined to make sure that the school took their concerns seriously. He dressed quickly and made Lily her favorite breakfast, heart-shaped pancakes with strawberries, hoping to see her smile, but even the sight of her favorite food couldn't lift her spirits. Lily ate quietly, her eyes focused on her plate. Jake's chest tightened with worry. He kissed her on the head before she left for school, the familiar words catching in his throat. "I love you, sweetheart." As Lily disappeared onto the school bus, Jake whispered under his breath, "Please let today be the day things get better." The parent meeting was held in a small conference room at the school. Jake arrived early, his stomach in knots as he mentally prepared for what was to come. He wasn't usually one to get nervous, but today felt different. This wasn't just about him. It was about Lily and every other child who had been hurt by the school's inaction. Heather was already there when Jake arrived, chatting with a few other parents who had agreed to join them. She waved him over, her expression serious but determined. "We've got about a dozen parents here," Heather said as Jake approached. "I think that's enough to make an impact." Jake nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for Heather's efforts. She had been instrumental in organizing this meeting, and without her, he wasn't sure he would have had the courage to take things this far. As the parents took their seats, Principal Daniels entered the room, followed by a few of the teachers. Jake immediately recognized Ms. Harper, Lily's homeroom teacher, who gave him a small, polite smile as she sat down. "Thank you all for coming," Principal Daniels began, his voice calm and composed. "I understand that there have been concerns raised regarding some incidents of bullying at our school. We take these matters very seriously, and we're here to listen to your concerns and find solutions together." Jake exchanged a glance with Heather, his frustration bubbling just below the surface. This felt like the same empty promises he had heard before, but today, he wasn't going to let it slide. One of the parents, a woman named Rachel, was the first to speak. "My son has been coming home in tears almost every day. He says the other kids won't let him play with them, and when he tries to join in, they push him away. I've spoken to his teacher, but nothing has changed." Another parent chimed in, her voice shaking with emotion. "My daughter was teased for wearing glasses. She's only 6 and already she doesn't want to go to school. How is that acceptable?" Jake felt his anger rising as he listened to the stories of the other parents. It was the same pattern over and over again. Children being bullied, parents raising concerns, and the school doing little to address the problem. When it was finally his turn to speak, Jake stood up, his hands clenched at his sides. "My daughter, Lily, has been bullied for weeks," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "She's been called names, excluded from activities, and made to feel like she doesn't belong. I've spoken to the principal and I've been told that the school will look into it, but I haven't seen any real changes. I'm not here for promises. I'm here for action." Principal Daniels's expression remained calm, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "Mr. Matthews, I assure you, we are taking steps to address these issues. We've increased supervision during recess and lunch, and we've spoken to the students involved." "It's not enough," Jake interrupted, his voice rising. "These kids are suffering, and your increased supervision isn't stopping it. We need more than that. We need real consequences for the bullies, and we need support for the kids who have been hurt." Heather stood up beside him, her voice calm but firm. "We're not just here to complain. We're here to work with you. But we need to see real change, or we'll take this higher. The safety and well-being of our children are non-negotiable." The room fell silent as the weight of Heather's words hung in the air. Principal Daniels shifted uncomfortably in his seat, glancing at the teachers for support. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "We hear you, and we agree that more needs to be done. We'll be implementing a new anti-bullying program, and we'll work closely with the teachers to ensure that incidents like these are addressed immediately. Additionally, we'll be bringing in a counselor to work with students who have been affected." Jake felt a mixture of relief and skepticism. It sounded like a step in the right direction, but he wasn't ready to let his guard down just yet. He would be watching closely, and if the school didn't follow through, he and the other parents would be back. As the meeting came to a close, Jake and Heather exchanged a knowing glance. This was only the beginning. In the days following the parent meeting, Jake found himself in a strange emotional limbo. On one hand, he was relieved that the school had finally agreed to take action. The new anti-bullying program and the promise of a counselor gave him hope that things might actually start to improve for Lily. But on the other hand, the anger and frustration he had been carrying for weeks hadn't fully subsided. He couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't enough, that they were still teetering on the edge of a much larger problem. Lily seemed to sense the shift as well. She came home from school a little more talkative, a little less withdrawn, but there was still a lingering sadness in her eyes. Jake knew that healing would take time, but watching her struggle hurt him in ways he couldn't fully express. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Lily resting her head against Jake's shoulder, she finally opened up. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Yes, sweetheart," Jake replied, wrapping his arm around her. "Why do some kids have to be so mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Jake's heart ached at the question. It was a question he had asked himself countless times, but he didn't have a simple answer. "I don't know, Lily," he said honestly. "Sometimes when people are hurting or feel scared, they take it out on others, but that doesn't make it okay." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing his words. "I don't want to be mean back. I just want them to stop." Jake kissed the top of her head, his heart swelling with pride at her kindness. "You're right, sweetie. Being mean back won't help. The best thing you can do is be yourself, kind, brave, and strong. And if they don't stop, we'll make sure someone helps you. You don't have to go through this alone." Lily nodded, her small hand clutching Bun tightly. "Thank you, Daddy." As they sat there in the quiet comfort of the evening, Jake couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for the bond they shared. He had always known that being a parent was hard, but nothing could have prepared him for the emotional toll of watching his child suffer. Still, he knew they were on the right path, together. A few weeks after the parent meeting, something unexpected happened that caught Jake completely off guard. It was a Friday afternoon, and Jake had just picked up Lily from school. She was in a better mood than she had been in weeks, chatting animatedly about her day as they drove home. Jake felt a flicker of hope. It seemed like things were finally starting to turn around. As they pulled into the driveway, Lily suddenly grew quiet. Jake glanced at her in the rearview mirror, noticing the worried expression on her face. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked gently. "There's something I need to tell you," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" Lily hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Adam, the boy who was mean to me, he said he's sorry." Jake blinked in surprise. "He apologized?" Lily nodded. "Yeah, he said he didn't mean to hurt me. He said he was going through some stuff at home, and that's why he was being mean. He said he's going to try to be nicer from now on." Jake's mind raced as he processed the information. Adam, the boy who had tormented Lily for weeks, had apologized? It wasn't what Jake had expected, and he wasn't sure how to feel about it. A part of him wanted to remain angry, to hold on to the frustration and protectiveness he had been carrying for so long. But another part of him, the part that knew how much Lily had been hurt, was grateful for the apology. "That's really big of him to apologize," Jake said, his voice measured. "How do you feel about it?" Lily shrugged, her expression thoughtful. "I don't know. I'm glad he said sorry, but I'm still a little scared." Jake reached over and squeezed her hand. "It's okay to feel that way. You don't have to forgive him right away. What's important is that you take your time and make sure you feel safe." Lily nodded, her small hand squeezing him in return. "Thanks, Daddy." As they got out of the car and headed inside, Jake couldn't help but reflect on the situation. It wasn't easy to let go of the anger he had been holding on to, but seeing Lily's bravery and kindness in the face of her pain made him realize that maybe there was room for healing, not just for her, but for everyone involved. The weeks that followed Adam's apology marked a turning point for both Lily and the school. It wasn't an immediate change, but day by day things started to feel different, lighter, safer. The atmosphere around Lily shifted as the weight of the bullying lifted off her shoulders, and for the first time in months Jake noticed her smile more freely. But the most remarkable change came when Lily decided to take things into her own hands. Inspired by her father's words about being kind, brave, and standing up for others, she approached Ms. Harper with an idea that would soon transform the school. "Daddy," Lily said one evening at dinner, her face lighting up with excitement, "Ms. Harper said I can start a club at school, a kindness club." Jake raised an eyebrow, smiling as he set down his fork. "A kindness club? That sounds amazing, sweetheart. Tell me more about it." Lily's eyes sparkled with pride as she explained. "I want to help other kids who feel left out or get teased. In the Kindness Club, we're going to talk about how to be nice to each other, and if someone's sad, we can be their friend. Ms. Harper said we can meet at recess once a week, and other kids can join too." Jake's heart swelled with pride as he listened. Lily's bravery and empathy were shining through in ways he had never imagined. Despite everything she had been through, she wasn't just healing, she was helping others heal too. "That's such a wonderful idea, Lily. I'm really proud of you for wanting to do this." Lily beamed, her small chest puffing with pride. "Do you think other kids will join?" "I know they will," Jake assured her. "Kindness is contagious, and I bet once they see how special the club is, they'll want to be part of it." True to Jake's prediction, the Kindness Club quickly became a popular group at school. What started as just Lily and two of her closest friends soon grew to include a dozen children from different classes. Ms. Harper helped organize their meetings, and each week the kids gathered in a cozy corner of the playground, sitting in a circle on colorful cushions that the school had provided. Jake's heart swelled each time he heard Lily talk about the club. Every Friday, she'd come home excited to share stories of how the club was growing. They'd discuss kindness, play games that encouraged teamwork, and even write notes of encouragement to kids who seemed sad or left out. One afternoon, Jake arrived early to pick Lily up from school, curious to see the Kindness Club in action. As he approached the playground, he spotted a group of kids huddled together in the corner, talking and laughing. There, at the center of it all, was Lily, her face glowing as she led the discussion. Jake stood back, observing quietly from a distance. He watched as Lily invited a shy boy to share a story, gently encouraging him when he hesitated. She listened with genuine interest, nodding along and making sure everyone felt included. It was at that moment that Jake realized something incredible. Lily had not only found her voice, but she had become a leader. She had taken her pain and transformed it into something beautiful, something that was helping other children feel seen, valued, and supported. As the meeting came to a close, the children stood up, giggling and chatting as they ran off to their next activity. Lily noticed Jake standing by the fence and ran over to him, her face flushed with excitement. "Did you see, Daddy?" she asked breathlessly. "Everyone's being so kind. Even Adam is in the club now." Jake knelt down and hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Lily. You're making such a big difference." Lily smiled, her eyes shining. "Thanks, Daddy. It feels good to help." As they walked home together hand in hand, Jake marveled at how far they had come. What had started as a painful experience of bullying had turned into something transformative, not just for Lily, but for the entire school. And as much as Jake had worried about protecting Lily, he now realized that she was stronger and braver than he had ever imagined. Jake had always seen Adam as the antagonist in Lily's story, the bully who had made her life miserable for weeks. But as Lily's Kindness Club grew, Jake began to see a different side of the boy. Slowly but surely, Adam had become a regular member of the club, and it was clear that something in him had shifted. At first, Adam was quiet during the meetings, sitting on the edges of the circle and listening more than participating. But week after week, he began to open up, offering suggestions for how the group could help others and even sharing his own experiences of feeling left out. One afternoon, Lily came home with an unexpected story. "Daddy, guess what?" Lily said, bouncing into the kitchen with her backpack. "Adam told me today that he used to get bullied too. He said that's why he was mean to me, because he didn't know how to deal with it." Jake paused, looking up from the dishes he was washing. "Really? He told you that?" Lily nodded, her expression serious. "Yeah. He said he felt bad about it, and he didn't want to be mean anymore." Jake dried his hands on a towel, considering her words. He had always known there was more to Adam's behavior than met the eye, but hearing it confirmed still caught him off guard. "How do you feel about that?" Lily shrugged, her small shoulders lifting. "I think it's nice that he wants to be better. He's been really nice in the Kindness Club. He even helped Mia today when she was sad." Jake smiled, his heart swelling with pride for both Lily and Adam. "That's really great, Lily. It takes a lot of courage for someone to admit they were wrong and try to change. I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of you for being kind, even after what he did." Lily's face lit up with a smile. "Thanks, Daddy. I think we're all getting better together." As Jake watched Lily run off to her room, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at how much things had changed. Adam had gone from being the source of Lily's pain to someone who was actively working to be better. And it was largely thanks to Lily's leadership in the Kindness Club. The next time Jake saw Adam at a school event, The boy surprised him by approaching him with an air of quiet confidence. "Mr. Matthews?" Adam said. His voice was nervous but steady. Jake turned, smiling down at the boy. "Hey, Adam, how are you doing?" Adam shifted on his feet, glancing down at the ground before meeting Jake's eyes. I wanted to say I'm sorry for what I did to Lily. I didn't mean to hurt her." Jake studied Adam's face, seeing the sincerity in his expression. He nodded, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Thank you, Adam. It takes a lot of courage to say that. I'm proud of you for trying to make things right." Adam looked relieved, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "I'm trying to be better. Lily's really nice. She didn't have to let me join the club, but she did." Jake's heart swelled with pride for his daughter. "That's because she believes in giving people second chances, and I think you're doing a great job." Adam smiled, a genuine look of gratitude in his eyes. "Thanks, Mr. Matthews." As Adam walked away, Jake felt a deep sense of peace. The boy who had once caused so much pain for Lily was now growing, changing, and becoming someone better. It was a powerful reminder that even the most difficult situations could lead to transformation and healing. By the time winter arrived, the impact of Lily's Kindness Club had spread beyond the small group of children who had first joined. Word of the club's success reached other classrooms, and soon the school's culture began to shift in ways that surprised even the teachers. Ms. Harper noticed the change almost immediately. Kids who had once been isolated or bullied were now forming new friendships. There was less teasing on the playground, and even the atmosphere in the classroom felt lighter. Students were quicker to help each other, to include others in games, and to resolve conflicts with words instead of aggression. Principal Daniels, who had initially been hesitant about the parents' complaints, called a staff meeting to discuss the success of the new anti-bullying initiatives. "It seems the changes we've implemented, along with the Kindness Club, have made a real difference," he said, glancing at the teachers. "I'd like to see if we can expand on this next semester, maybe make the Kindness Club part of the regular school program." Ms. Harper smiled, feeling a surge of pride for her students, especially Lily. "I think that's a great idea," she agreed. "The kids are really responding to it, and it's made a world of difference." Jake, too, noticed how much better Lily seemed at home. The sadness that had once weighed her down had lifted, and she was back to her usual self, bright, cheerful, and full of curiosity. She still talked about the kids in the Kindness Club, sharing stories of how they were helping other students and spreading kindness throughout the school. One afternoon, after picking her up from school, Lily surprised Jake with a big announcement. "Daddy, guess what?" she said excitedly as they drove home. "The school is giving the Kindness Club an award. Ms. Harper said we're getting a special certificate for being the best group in school." Jake chuckled, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "That's amazing, Lily. You've worked so hard for this. I'm really proud of you." Lily's face glowed with pride as she bounced in her seat. "It's not just me, though. Everyone in the club was so kind. Even Adam." Jake's heart swelled as he listened to her talk. The Kindness Club had started as a small idea, but it had grown into something far more powerful, a force that was changing the entire school. And at the center of it all was Lily, his brave, compassionate daughter who had turned her pain into purpose. As they pulled into the driveway, Jake turned to Lily with a smile. "You've really made a difference, sweetheart. I hope you know that." Lily grinned, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "Thanks, Daddy. I couldn't have done it without you." Jake reached over and squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of pride and love. Together, they had faced the darkest parts of their journey, and now they were coming out the other side stronger than ever. The day of the school's winter assembly arrived, and the entire auditorium was buzzing with excitement. Parents, teachers, and students filled the room, eager to celebrate the accomplishments of the past semester. Among the many awards being given out, one stood out as particularly special: the recognition of the Kindness Club and its contribution to transforming the school's environment. Jake sat in the front row, his heart pounding with pride and anticipation. He glanced at Heather, who was seated beside him, giving her an appreciative smile. Heather had been instrumental in helping to make the changes at school possible, and now they were about to see the fruits of their labor. When Principal Daniels took the stage, the room quieted down, and Jake felt the weight of the moment settle over him. Today, we're not only recognizing academic achievements, Principal Daniels began, his voice echoing through the auditorium, but we're also celebrating the incredible impact that one small idea has had on our school. Jake's chest tightened with emotion as he realized what was coming next. One student in particular has shown remarkable leadership and compassion, Principal Daniels continued. Her vision for spreading kindness and inclusion has transformed not only her classmates, but the entire school community. Please join me in welcoming Lily Matthews to the stage. The room erupted into applause as Lily, her face glowing with excitement, stood up and made her way to the stage. Jake's eyes filled with tears as he watched her climb the steps, her head held high and her smile radiant. As Lily took the microphone, the room grew silent once again. She hesitated for a moment, glancing out at the sea of faces before her. But then, with a deep breath, she began to speak. "Hi, everyone," Lily said, her voice clear and confident. "I started the Kindness Club because I wanted everyone to feel like they belong. I know what it feels like to be sad and left out, and I didn't want anyone else to feel that way." Jake's heart swelled with pride as he listened to his daughter's words. She was so young, yet she spoke with the wisdom and strength of someone far beyond her years. "In the Kindness Club," Lily continued, "we learned that being kind is about more than just saying nice things. It's about helping others even when they're feeling sad or scared. I'm so proud of everyone in the club, and I hope we can keep spreading kindness to everyone in our school." The audience erupted into applause, and Jake could barely hold back the tears that threatened to spill over. His daughter had taken something painful and turned it into a powerful force for good. She had become a leader, not just for herself, but for others. As Lily took a small bow and stepped off the stage, Jake stood up, clapping louder than anyone else in the room. His heart was full of pride, love, and admiration for the incredible girl he had raised. The weeks after the assembly were filled with a sense of peace and contentment that Jake hadn't felt in a long time. The school had truly transformed, and Lily's confidence and happiness had been restored. She was thriving, both academically and socially, and the Kindness Club continued to grow, welcoming new members each week. But the greatest transformation had happened between Jake and Lily. Their bond had deepened in ways that Jake hadn't anticipated. Through the pain, the fear, and the challenges they had faced, they had emerged stronger, together. One evening, as they sat on the porch swing, the cool winter air brushing against their faces, Lily turned to Jake with a thoughtful expression. "Daddy?" she asked, her voice soft. "Yeah, sweetheart," Jake replied, glancing down at her. "Do you think we'll always be brave?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Jake smiled, his heart swelling with love. "I think we'll always try to be, and that's what matters." Lily nodded, seemingly satisfied with his answer. "I like being brave, but I'm glad we don't have to do it alone." Jake chuckled, pulling her close. "We'll never have to do it alone, sweetie. We're a team, always." As they sat there in the quiet of the evening, Jake felt a deep sense of peace settle over him. They had faced their fears, conquered their challenges, and came out stronger on the other side. And whatever the future held, Jake knew they would face it. Together. Spring had arrived, and with it came a renewed sense of hope and happiness in the Matthews household. The days were warmer, the sun brighter, and the world seemed to echo the transformation that had taken place within Jake and Lily over the past few months. Lily's Kindness Club had become one of the most popular activities at school, with nearly every student wanting to participate in some way. The change in the school's atmosphere was palpable, and even the teachers remarked on how much calmer and more supportive the students had become. One Saturday morning, as Jake and Lily sat on the porch swing enjoying the soft breeze, Lily looked up at her father with a thoughtful expression. "Daddy," she said, her voice filled with excitement, "I think I know what I want to do when I grow up." Jake raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, yeah? What's that?" Lily smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I want to help kids, like the Kindness Club, but bigger. I want to make sure kids everywhere feel safe and happy." Jake's heart swelled with pride. He couldn't believe how much Lily had grown, not just physically but emotionally. She had turned her own painful experiences into a mission to help others, and it was clear that her journey of healing had sparked something powerful inside her. "I think that's an amazing idea, sweetheart," Jake said, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "You've already made such a big difference at your school. I know you can do even more." Lily grinned, resting her head against Jake's shoulder. "I want to make the world a kinder place." Jake kissed the top of her head, feeling a surge of love for his daughter. "You already are, Lily. One person at a time." As they sat together, the world felt full of possibilities. The dark days of bullying and fear seemed far behind them, and in their place, there was a bright future filled with hope, kindness, and the promise of new beginnings. The following week, Jake received a call from Principal Daniels inviting him to a special meeting at the school. Curious but slightly apprehensive, Jake agreed and found himself walking into the school office the next morning. When he arrived, Principal Daniels greeted him warmly and led him to the conference room, where several teachers and parents were seated. Heather was there too, giving Jake a knowing smile as he sat down. "Thank you all for coming," Principal Daniels began, his tone formal but friendly. "We're here today because of the remarkable success of Lily's Kindness Club and the positive changes we've seen at the school as a result. It's clear that this initiative has had a profound impact on our students, and we want to discuss how we can continue to build on that success." Jake felt a swell of pride at the mention of Lily's club. He looked around the room, noticing how many people had been touched by the changes Lily had sparked. Ms. Harper, who had been instrumental in supporting the Kindness Club, spoke up next. "We've seen such incredible growth in the students, especially those who struggled with bullying or feeling left out. It's clear that this kind of emotional support is just as important as academic success, and I think we should consider expanding the Kindness Club model to other schools in the district." There were murmurs of agreement around the table, and Jake couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the scope of what was happening. What had started as a small idea to help Lily heal had grown into something much bigger, something that had the potential to change the entire community. Principal Daniels nodded thoughtfully. "I've spoken with the school board, and they're very interested in learning more about the Kindness Club and how it can be implemented across the district, but we'll need the help of the parents and teachers who have been involved to make that happen." Jake exchanged a glance with Heather, who gave him an encouraging nod. He knew this was an opportunity to take everything they had fought for to the next level. It wasn't just about protecting Lily anymore. It was about making sure that no child had to go through what she had. "I'm in," Jake said, his voice firm but excited. "Whatever we need to do to make this happen, I'm ready." Heather smiled, her eyes shining with determination. "Me too. Let's make sure every kid feels as safe and supported as our kids do now." As the meeting continued, plans were made to present the Kindness Club to the school board, and a sense of momentum began to build. Jake felt energized by the thought of what they could accomplish together. This wasn't just a victory for Lily. It was a victory for every child who had ever felt alone or afraid. The day of the presentation to the school board arrived, and Jake could hardly believe that he and Lily were about to stand in front of district officials to talk about the Kindness Club. It was a big step, but he knew that Lily was more than ready for it. As they entered the boardroom, Jake noticed how serious and formal the atmosphere was. The school board members sat at a long table, their faces attentive as they prepared for the presentation. Jake felt a flicker of nervousness, but when he glanced at Lily, standing confidently beside him, his fears melted away. Principal Daniels introduced Jake and Lily, giving a brief overview of the Kindness Club and its success at the school. Then it was Lily's turn to speak. She stepped up to the microphone, her small hands clutching the edge of the podium, but her voice was steady as she began. "Hi, my name is Lily Matthews," she said, her voice clear and full of purpose. "I started the Kindness Club because I wanted everyone at my school to feel like they belong. When I first came to school, I was sad because some kids were mean to me, but then I realized that maybe they were sad too and they didn't know how to be kind." Jake's heart swelled with pride as he watched his daughter speak with such wisdom and compassion. She was only 7, yet she was standing before a room of adults, sharing her vision for a better, kinder world. "The Kindness Club helped us learn how to be nice to each other," Lily continued. "We helped kids who felt lonely, and we stopped teasing. It made our school a happy place, and I hope other schools can have Kindness Clubs too." As she finished speaking, the room erupted into applause, and Jake could see that the school board members were genuinely moved by her words. He couldn't have been prouder of his daughter, her bravery, her kindness, and her ability to inspire others. When the applause died, one of the board members leaned forward, smiling warmly at Lily. "Thank you, Lily. Your words are very powerful, and I think we can all agree that your Kindness Club is something we'd like to see in every school in our district." Jake felt a rush of relief and excitement as the board members discussed how they could roll out the program across the district. It was happening. Lily's idea was becoming something much bigger than either of them had imagined. As they left the meeting, Jake turned to Lily with a smile. "You were amazing, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." Lily beamed up at him, her eyes bright with happiness. "Thanks, Daddy. I'm really glad we did this." Jake knelt down, pulling her into a hug. "We did this together, Lily, and because of you, so many other kids are going to feel safe and happy." As they walked back to the car, hand in hand, Jake couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come. What had started as a painful struggle had turned into something beautiful and transformative, and through it all, Lily had led the way with her heart and her courage. Months passed, and the Kindness Club program expanded to several schools in the district, with other communities eager to adopt the model. Jake and Lily continued to attend meetings and events, sharing their stories and inspiring others to spread kindness wherever they went. But even as life returned to its new normal, Jake couldn't help but think back to the dark days when he wasn't sure how they would get through it. He remembered the fear and helplessness he had felt as he watched Lily struggle with bullying, unsure of how to help her. But now, as he looked at her, a confident, compassionate leader, he knew that those challenges had only made them stronger. One evening, as they sat together on the porch swing, Lily turned to Jake with a smile. "Daddy," she said softly, "I think we did it." Jake chuckled, pulling her close. "Did what, sweetie?" "We made the world a little kinder," Lily said, her voice filled with satisfaction. "And I think we're going to keep doing it." Jake kissed the top of her head, his heart full. "We sure are, Lily, and we'll do it together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden light over the yard, Jake felt a deep sense of peace. They had faced their fears, overcome their challenges, and built something beautiful out of the pain. And now, they were ready for whatever the future held, together. The next year, Jake received an unexpected invitation. A national parenting organization had heard about the success of the Kindness Club and wanted Jake and Lily to speak at a conference on bullying prevention and emotional resilience. It was an honor that left Jake both humbled and excited. As they stood on stage in front of a packed audience, Jake shared the story of their journey, how it had all started with a little girl being bullied, and how that little girl had transformed not only her school but her community. "I learned that being a parent isn't just about protecting your child," Jake said, his voice filled with emotion. "It's about giving them the tools to face the world with kindness, courage, and resilience, and sometimes it's our children who teach us how to be brave." The audience erupted into applause, and as Jake turned to look at Lily, standing beside him with a proud smile on her face, he knew that this was just the beginning. They had started a ripple of kindness that was spreading far beyond their little town, and together, they would continue to make the world a better place. If you've been moved by Jake and Lily's journey, don't forget to hit subscribe for more stories about resilience, hope, and the power of kindness. Join us as we continue to share heartwarming stories that inspire and uplift. Subscribe now to follow more touching journeys just like this one.